Hello there. This chat is about the Destroy a Novel series and basically all the peripherals that have to do with it. It is technically a reissue, as I did do it on my previous channel, but somehow I didn't save that video, and I was a little bit annoyed because I really was happy with that initial video on this series. So I'm sort of redoing it. It doesn't count as like new content really. It's sort of older content, but it's being re-recorded and all off the top of my head. So hopefully you'll enjoy this video. If you enjoyed the Destroy a Novel series, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, please listen, and I will explain it all to you. So yes, bear with me and join me on this friendly chat.
And now the news. Don't touch that dial.
So the Destroyer series is an adventure series of basically pulp novels. They're very small books. They're basically about around 200 odd pages. They're quite small. And yeah, the high action, high adventure, a lot of comedy. A little bit of profanity, but not a heck of a lot. They started in the early 70s, so 1972, written by Warren Murphy and Richard Saffer. There we go, right there. And basically, each of them wrote like a chunk of the book, and it worked. Like sometimes you think two people writing a story, it can't work, but they sort of merged it. I mean, I think if you read enough of them, you can kind of work out who is who writing when and where, but it really doesn't matter. It's just good fun adventure and punch on chin action. So it's high martial arts sort of action, and that they went for a long time. Like the main series of books is at least 150 issues. I was going to say novels long. And that went right through to the 2000s. And then they sort of did other things like did a second generation of characters and things like that. But over the years, like there was toing and froing. Safford left because he was they had a bit of a falling out, Murphy and Saffer, and then so Murphy had ghostwriters writing for him, and Saffer came back, and everything was hunky dory again, and then Murphy's son wrote a bunch of them, and yeah, it's a really interesting sort of series of books, and I got into them through Marvel had a magazine of the Destroyer, and I remember reading the first. Oh, that was the third issue actually, and I was like really enjoying it. I was like, this is great, but it seemed familiar, and I didn't know why. And yeah, like about a year later, I was in a book exchange, and I remember seeing a massive shelf of Destroy novels in the just the sort of the pulp section, and there was like Mac Bolan, the Executioner, and TNT, and the Penetrator. Wow, you're really going hard on these titles here. But I remembered like seeing them, but not really paying attention to them. But I sort of drew the conclusion. I went, oh wait, this is that comic book um, about Remo. And yeah, it was great. So I grabbed a handful of them. I just went through them and just went, okay, what titles seem interesting? And so I grabbed some early ones and some later ones, and yeah, just went for titles and read the back covers and went, oh, that sounds cool. Um, one one thing actually, if you ask any, especially people who live in Australia who know the Destroy novels, there's generally two you'll always see at a book exchange. One's called Acid Rock and the other's called Terror Squad. It's almost like they overprinted that, or it's just everyone has it. It's hilarious, but yeah, they were very interesting books, and they do actually the characters do evolve as it goes along. When they start off, there's a bit of animosity, and as they grow, they get closer together. It's actually quite well done. So the concept is the government has a secret organization called Cure, and Cure consists of three people, and generally it's the head of Cure, which is a chap named Harold Smith. One of his his right-hand man was a character called McCleary, who's in the first novel, and then then they need an actual trigger man, for lack of a better term, or a field agent, and they basically recruit Remo Williams by framing him for murder because he's a cop, and he's a former Marine. He's a police officer for I think it's New Jersey, so he's Newark police. They frame him for the murder of a drug dealer. He gets railroaded into basically to the electric chair, and they set him up for murder, and then they execute him very publicly. But it's just a ploy, and then they basically go, right, you're now working for us, and otherwise your death can be actually permanent. And but they don't want him to just go around shooting people because that leaves evidence. So they actually hire a man named Chung, who is from Korea, from a village called Shinanju in Korea. Funnily enough, it's in North Korea, and during the war in Korea, no one went near his village because they would disappear permanently. So that involved basically the American military and the North Korean army. They just looked, well, staying away from Shinanju. But yes, Shinanju has this reputation of being hired by kings and emperors to as an assassin to help them out, and so they hire Chung to train Remo in his ways, so that so Remo can be basically the agent of Cure that can go around and whatever they need to do and go do it. It's really fun. It's very, very fun. Like Remo is he's racist, especially towards Chung initially, and Chung is equally racist towards Remo because he basically, I think there's a great line in a movie they did, but basically he just thinks of him basically as anyone who's not Korean as inferior. But it's a lot of good fun, and Remo and Chung have a lot of heated sort of arguments, but Chung takes his job seriously, and he basically said, "Well, I'm hired to train you. I will train you to be the best you can be." And if and it involves everything from not just how to punch and how to kick and stuff like that, but it's like how to breathe correctly. Remo has to stop eating like the poisonous hamburger and junk food and stuff like that, so you can become more efficient. And it's kind of neat. It's very, very fun. So if you could imagine Mr. Miyagi from The Karate Kid dialed up to 11, that's halfway to Chung. He's like, nah, you're going all the way. But yeah, it's a fun series of books. They cover like multiple scenarios, and that there's as I said, they started in the 70s, they went right through to there's still stuff sort of coming out here and there, but yeah, they're always really fun. They depending on like actually not that long ago, I went just out of curiosity and I have a look to see if I could get some, and I managed to find two at the my local book exchange, which is one of the few that's left. There's not many book exchanges left in Brisbane. But I always love these. Just the different formats are really, really fun, and yeah, it's like Programming to Kill. Remo Williams is the ultimate, weapon. It's like the human death machine. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of kind of neat. Even on the cover, it's got him with a pistol, and it's like he doesn't carry guns. He doesn't need them. He is lethal. And yeah, like as I said, the characters do evolve. Like I remember I keep saying issue because I think of them like comics, but book 50. There's a great scene in it where Remo is standing on the roof of a burning building, like it's like a warehouse, and the warehouse is on fire, and he takes his shoes off because the heat through the shoes is getting uncomfortable, and he'd rather walk barefoot on the fire. And that's the sort of thing about Shinanju. It's very, very magical martial arts. Like they're like you can just jab a person and they die, sort of stuff. And it's fun. But it's what is also good about it is the books are very very short. They're very punchy in their, and that's not a pun, but in the way they're written. So the fight scenes are very quick, and the descriptions are very, as I said, they're very, very quick, and they get through it fast. So you don't get bogged down in the descriptors of, oh, parry and punch and this and that. And it's like sometimes people write those stories and it's like they get too bogged down, and I want to describe the best fight ever. And it's like, it's boring. It's not easy to do because they're very visual and they work well in a movie or a TV show, but generally in a book, it's like, just get on with it. And that's what they do in the Destroyer. They get on with it. So it's like, they do something like, the man threw a punch at Remo, but he was no longer there. And, it's like, this means he's ducked out of the way and riposted, and now the guy's dead. But it was just a fun series of books. It, very, very, saying the product of a time makes it sound like they're problematic. Not really, but, as I said, there is a certain amount of casual racism in them, but it was the 70s. But the characters grow to become like friends, and almost like a father-son sort of relationship between Chung and Remo, which is really fun. Harold Smith is fantastic, the leader of Cure. Chung always refers to him as Emperor Smith because he just assumes he's the Emperor of America because he hired him to train Remo. And but yeah, it's a fun series of books. You can knock them off really quickly because, as I said, they're only about 200 pages. Like, is it 200 pages? This one's like 170, 980 pages. So yeah, you can knock them off in an afternoon. They're just really good, quick fun reads that'll entertain you, and then you just move on to what else you have to do today. So yeah, it's something that I sort of discovered when I was in grade 10. So I was 15, discovered this series of books, backwards through a magazine. But yeah, I grew to really like them, and it became sort of an obsession of collecting them. The best thing about them is that all of them are on Kindle. So if you have a Kindle, or have the Kindle program and you have access to Amazon, which who doesn't, you can actually download. You got to pay for them, of course, but you can get all 150, 160 odd books, including some of the other sort of, there's like, of the numbered books, there's like 150 odd, let's say almost like nearly 160. Including like the Legacy series. There's also fun ones like Inside Shinenju, which is like teaches you about the martial art, and it has a couple of little short stories, and it talks about their poetry and the history of all mankind, which is origin in Korea. There's a couple of short stories in there, and an interview with Murphy and Saffer, and that was a really fun book, and that one took ages to track down. Like, I heard about it. I think it was also called the Assassin's Handbook. I think it might have been also called. But there's a bunch of really cool extra books in the series that just build on the legacy and the cool characters that are. So yeah, that's basically the core of the Destroyer, as I said, basic, produced by the Mills and Boon company for just to corner the male market for reading short stories, and I think it worked. I mean, like Mac Bowl and the Execution is probably the other famous one of those sorts of adventure books. And it had a heap of books too. Like, it had lots and lots of books, and I read a few of them. They're not too bad. I think I enjoyed the Destroy Morbius. Was a lot more fun. Like, yeah, it is as I said, punch on chin action, but it's very tongue in cheek in the way it does it, and you sort of just enjoy the ride of Rima and Chung, basically having to deal with a problem that is affecting the US government and going, well, we need to assassinate a whole bunch of people really, really majorly now. Let's go do it. And yeah, it's reading the early books is kind of fun because there's a lot of animosity, and then there's that whole of Remo wanting to eat junk food and not being able to, or Chung stopping him eating junk food because it's it's going to kill him. And then later on, as I said, the in issue I keep saying this, book 50, like that incident where he took his shoes off and was walking barefoot on the roof. Chung basically saw that and went, "You're ready now for something else, which is you're ready to grow your fingernails to become like a weapon." And Remo's like, "I'm not growing my fingernails. What the hell with that?" But yeah, it shows like as like he was evolving as a master of Shenanju, and it's great fun. It's a really good series. I do recommend it if you're into like that sort of light-hearted pulp action sort of martial artsy sort of stuff. It's definitely worth it. It's really good fun. And as I said, you can get them on Kindle. I'm not doing this as a spruik, but I'm just saying that they are available. Because book exchanges really are just disappearing. But yeah, you can probably buy them on Amazon, like the actual single books, like like this and that on Amazon and eBay and things like that. But yeah, if you're not like wanting to spend huge amounts of cash and you do like digital, you can get them on Kindle. So there is that. Another thing that they've been doing is fans have been writing their own Destroy novels, or short stories at least. And so yeah, through Warren Murphy Media, sorry, and destroyerbooks.com, you probably get some of the stuff on them too. I have no idea. I haven't really looked into it. A friend of mine actually wrote a story in this. So he, out of all the people I know, there's only a few that know or in the know of the Destroy books, and he has probably the most complete collection of Destroyed books and merchandise that I know of. I don't think anyone else. I think he said there's a poster that he doesn't have, and that's it. But that's neat. They did a couple of these. There's just a whole bunch of short stories collected and about the adventures of Remo and Chung. So they're still going. There's still life in it, and yeah, it's just a really good series of books that I was happy I discovered and I really enjoyed reading. And periodically now and then I just dust off one or two and just go, I'm going to read that, because as I said, they're really easy to read, and it doesn't take long because they're quite short books. They don't outstay their welcome, which is don't get me wrong, I do like reading a big book, and sometimes I want to read something like a big Tom Clancy book, and government intrigue and international power plays and things like that. And then sometimes I just want to read a book about two guys just protecting the government against tyranny by assassinating the bad guys. So yeah, that is the core of the Destroyers, which is their novels. So Marvel Comics ended up getting the rights to doing comic versions of the Destroyer, and they gave it a go a couple of times. They didn't really push it as hard as I wish they did, but they gave it a few goes. The first way I discovered them was they did Marvel magazines, which I really liked. I liked their magazine era. They're just like large format black and white magazines, and yeah, so we had with a great Joe Jusko cover on issue 1, and they did 9 of these, which was really good. Mostly original stories, but they did do an adaptation of light adaptation of the first issue, which was the eighth book. And they did Dr. Quake, which is actually a novel. They adapted that. But the first one I ever read was issue 3, and this is what got me into the books as well. Whereas Remo fighting ninjas that have infiltrated the Pentagon. And I go, wow, that just sounded amazing. And yeah, one of the guys in the dorm had this, and I think he bought it by accident. I don't know how, but he didn't seem to be interested in this universe of characters. And I borrowed it off him. I was like, this is awesome. And I went looking, as I said, and one day accidentally found the novels in the book exchange and went, all right, okay, there we go, yay. And as I said, talking about the novels, that's how I ended up there. But yeah, the art was great. The stories are good. The black and white comics, but I don't mind. A few years later, they ended up making a trade paperback, and it was like, I think issues 1 through 4, and they colored them. And I don't mind, if you do that, but when a comic is specifically black and white, it's shaded in a way to basically go, look, this has got no color. We've got to give it definition and that. And when they color over the top, it just looks like a mess because you've got like lots of shade marks in, and it's just like, it looks like it's smudged. That being said, I still bought it because it was like, hey, cool, I can read this in color, yay. But yeah, nine magazines, really, really cool. And they also they did a one-shot, which was it's a neat story, which had two stories in it. There was a short story in the back, which was based off a prose story that was in a magazine called Action Heroes. They just did this, I think it was like 4-page sort of prose story at the back about the Destroyer, and it was about a guy who he made assassinations affordable by creating a weapon that shot like quarters. It was like a one-armed bandit, and it had a laser targeting, and it was in a Zeppelin, and he could just shoot coins with lethal accuracy. It's like, I made murder affordable. It's like, okay, so the bullet costs $1, and I can use a quarter, and I can kill a person. It's like, wow, okay. But that's the sort of the craziness that happens in the Destroyer. It's like the villainy is very cartoonish, but that they're still a threat, so they've got to be dealt with. And yeah, he tried to sell it to the government, and he got laughed out of the room, going, "Get out of here, you idiot!" And so he was like, "Oh, well, I'll show you." But yeah, and then they did a 4-part miniseries, which is almost it's almost 4 single issues, but there is a bit of a run like a through plot. So great cover by Walter Simonson, and it's loosely based on a story called Oil Slick. There we go, which has Chung's nephew, who is also a master of Shenanju, called Newick, which is Chung backwards. I think it was issue 16, book 16. I think it was Oil Slick. But yeah, just a fun little adventure. But it was just a 4-part miniseries. It didn't go beyond that. That was as far as Marvel were willing to test the waters with the Destroyer, which they've done less in over the years. But you get 9 magazines, you get 5 comics, and it's not too bad. It's a collection, and it's still very, very faithful to the books. Like, granted, they're not as violent as the books, and the books can get really violent, like when they kill people. They don't hold back. But yeah, they're a fun series of comics, and they're not exactly hard to track down. They're everywhere. I think there's only about 4 of us who bought them. But yeah, very, very fun. It was just another sort of column of the destroyer landscape of availability. So yeah, so helping build on the novels was the comics, and yeah, they had a go at it, which I respect. Give it a go. But that was the late 80s, early 90s. So they haven't gone beyond that. They've never really gone back to the Destroyer. We really wish they'd do it because it's a great franchise and it's just sort of languished. Um, and I mean, it does scream, comics. You can make lots more comics of this. Who knows? Maybe down the track. You never know. So we've had novels, we've had magazines and comic books. The last missing piece of the puzzle is a movie, which came out in 1985, and it was called Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins. And it is incredibly fun. It was just absolutely spot on what I wanted out of a movie based on the Destroy novels, especially something that came out in the mid 80s. Now I didn't get to see it until 1993. It was played late on television, and luckily I saw the ad for it. I was like, "What the heck is this?" And I was like, "This looks like the Destroyer." And yeah, fortunately I was correct and stayed up and taped it. Um, Stars Fred Ward as Remo Williams. It has Wilford Brimley as Harold Smith, J.A. Preston as McCleary, and it has Joel Grey playing Chung. Now, Joel Grey is not Korean. He's actually the father of Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing. And he is under a lot of makeup, and I understand that a lot of people think of that as problematic. The thing is that he doesn't play it for jokes. He doesn't play it for laughs at all. He does it very seriously. He's very respectful, and it's not like offensive, like say Breakfast at Tiffany's, where you just look at that and go, "That's a hate crime." Now, I have seen a modern interview with him, like modern, it's probably from like 10, 15 years ago, where he understands and says, "Yeah, look, if it probably would have been better if they actually got someone Korean to do it. They didn't. He was offered it. He did it. He did a great job. He was nominated for a Golden Globe for it. But but yeah, it is one of those things that as time goes on, people get, oh, this is, but definitely doesn't deserve to be like cancelled or attacked for it. As I said, he does a great job, and he doesn't do it for laughs. He doesn't like when you go, oh, look at me, I'm Asian. It's like, no, he treats it with respect, which is great. Um, if they made it now, I'm sure they'd actually find the right person for the right job. But this is 1985, so you got to deal with it. Uh, but it's incredibly fun. It's they get the attitude correct between Remo and Chung. They don't have Remo's, like they've removed Remo's like casual racism. It's just like, he's just basically, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I want out. And he has no choice. Uh, they've modified a few things. Like they actually make out that Remo isn't his real name. It's like an identity. Um, he isn't set up for murder. They basically use a dump truck to push his police cruiser into the Hudson River, and basically he's dead. And then they give him facial reconstructive surgery, and so he suddenly he has a moustache, and then they shave the moustache, and now he's Fred Ward. But he's in a lot of shadows, so it sort of works. But it's very good. The other thing that was what I love about it, and it's good tough guy dialogue, and I do love good tough guy dialogue. But it's the description of what Cure is and what Remo will be for Cure, and it's from McCleary, and McCleary just says, "You're going to be the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not get away with it." And you're like, "Oh, yes." That's a good line, and it's really beautifully done. J.A. Preston, for those who are unaware of who he is, off the top of my head, the other main thing, he's been in a heap of stuff. He was one of those great character actors. but he played the judge in A Few Good Men. He's brilliant in that. Wolf of Brimley, of course, The Thing, and diabetes ads, and a lot of other stuff. But Kate Mulgrew's in it too. Good old Catherine Janeway. She's fantastic. She plays a major in the military who's basically responsible for sort of kicking everything off because she's sort of doing an audit on the bad guys, what they're up to. And it's an interesting plot because I can imagine this happening. And it's basically a weapons manufacturing company that has lots and lots of government contracts, and they're basically just ripping the government off. They're just bleeding them dry by providing terrible weaponry that's like, they're going, oh, this gun's high tech, and it's like they use a Steyr, which our military uses as a weapon, which is like, ugh, whoops. But it does look futuristic, especially back in 1985. It did, being a bullpup, weapon and stuff like that. But yes, so yeah, they're providing substandard equipment, and then they've got like special, we're going to the satellite system, which is going to be basically like the Star Wars program, and it's complete fake, and it's just one of these things where it's like, yeah, I was going to say Captain Janeway. Let's call her Captain Janeway. Kate Mulgrew's character, she basically has suspicions, and they are going, well, we're going to have to kill this woman because, and Q is sort of like going, well, she's done incredible work. She's done this and this and this, and she's, we need to get more information before they can actually act on it. Because yeah, it is that sort of thing. Like, well, they have to be 100% sure that this is happening before they can just go in and assassinate people. But yeah, it's a fun story. It's directed by Guy Hamilton, who did like 4 James Bond movies, like Goldfinger, and I think he did. Actually, let's see what else he did. Let's see, he did. I know he did Goldfinger, and I know he did Diamonds Are Forever. I think he might have done Live and Let Die as well. And yeah, it's he's got a good reputation because he also did a couple of Agatha Christie movies. He did The Battle of Britain. He did Force 10 from Navarone. So he's got a great, just absolute great chops when it comes to directing stuff. And it was written by Christopher Wood, who co-wrote my favorite James Bond movie, which is Spy Who Loved Me. So there's a lot of great Bond connections here. Also has in it names that people will recognize from other things. John Polito, who's pretty much like he was a staple in Coen Brothers movies. He's fantastic. He was Gideon, the scumbag in the Crow, who owned the pawnbroker's shop. He was in Highlander and a whole bunch of other stuff. He's great. John Polito, absolutely brilliant. And it's also got Reginald Val Johnson from Die Hard as ambulance driver. Didn't really have a huge role there. And one of my favorites, Patrick Kilpatrick. I love his name, but Patrick Kilpatrick is, if for those who don't recognize the name, you will recognize his face. He's one of those guys where you just go, that guy, I know him. Like, he was the bad guy in Death Warrant with Van Damme. He was the Sandman, and he was in Under Siege 2. And he's been, if you look him up, his laundry list of, he plays like heavies a lot. His character, his name's Stone. He has like a diamond in his tooth, which is just like, why? But it does come into it in the film. It's very, very neat. It's got a lot of great action sequences. There's a brilliant one on the Statue of Liberty. At the time, the Statue of Liberty was, I think, being cleaned. So it was covered in scaffolding. So they actually have a sequence where they're actually running around the Statue of Liberty as people are trying to kill Remo. Really neatly done. There's a lot of great comedy too. There's just absolute fun stuff between, and it's all between Remo and Chung. It's just like, you believe that they're becoming sort of less than, or more than, sorry, than just like, oh, you're a job to me. It's like, oh, I think of you as like a son sort of thing, which is really fun. And it was just a really, really neat movie. Unfortunately, it didn't do particularly well. I don't know why, but yes. In Australia, though, and this is very common. Like they have different titles for movies in Australia. Best thing about this Blu-ray edition is it's got like a little booklet of information, but it also has the original Australian poster and title. In Australia, it was called Remo, Unarmed and Dangerous, which I thought was a great title. I mean, The Destroyer is a great title, but Remo, Unarmed and Dangerous, it gives you, it's just straight away just go, why is he dangerous when he's unharmed? I need to know. Um, which is just brilliant, which is the same picture as my T-shirt of Fred Ward. Uh, but yeah, absolutely fun, and it's one of those things that every now and then, and there's still talk about it. They'll go, oh, we should bring this back, and it's like, yes, you should. It is a franchise that is just languishing. Um, and the sad thing is, the longer that it goes away, the less relevant it is. Like, um, and I'd like to see it come back as movies. They did do a pilot to a TV series. It was called Remo: The Adventure Continues. They recast everybody. Um, Remo was played by Jeffrey Meek, who some people may know the name, may not. He was in a TV series in the late 80s called Raven, which was set in Hawaii. He was like a martial arts guy. His best mate was played by Lee Majors. It was fun. I watched a few episodes when it came out. And Roddy McDowall was recast as Chung, so they did the same thing with that of basically having a white man playing a Korean under makeup. Once again, didn't do it for laughs. Basically, just went, I am Chung. And because they love to work on the fact that they do this in the novels, and they did it really well in the later printings of the novels. They make out that these are true stories, and occasionally when they do a newer printing of it, and they did this for Created the Destroyer, which is the first book. Um, I had I had the original print, which not that that's worth big bucks or anything, but that was what I bought from the book exchange when I first bought it. And then I bought like a print from the 90s, and it had a forward by Chung, and when you read it, had you read lies, and it was like he's really angry that the story that you've read is just absolute fiction that's been embellished to make Remo look like a hero, and Chung to be just like nothing but his teacher, and he's so much more. So they tried to make that gag, and they said if you wish to um, watch an adventure of my useless subordinate, change the channel now, and unfortunately people didn't get the gag and changed the channel. So it was like, oh, I thought it was funny, but I mean, I was in on the gag, but unfortunately, yeah, that's where the Destroyer in live action ended. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, bummer. Um, but books were still coming out. A few years later, the comics and the magazines came out, so they stayed alive, and they've stayed alive. Thanks to being on Kindle and things like that, it's like they're available. People can read them. Warren Murphy has, I think he's definitely has passed on now, but Warren Murphy Media, there's a whole bunch of stuff, they're doing, as I said, the fans are doing stuff, which is kind of neat. I mean, I believe that there is, a certain set of rules that you have to abide by, otherwise they won't publish it, which is, fine. You're playing with someone else's toys. You better, follow the rules of their backyard. But yeah, it's a great series. As I said, we've had comics, we've had books, we've had a movie, we've had a pilot to a TV series, and who knows? Maybe one day Hollywood will come calling again and give it a go. Fingers crossed. I really do. It's one of those franchises that, as I said, it's been languishing. It really should just come back. Give it a good red hot go. Even TV series, like the thing is these days, like movies isn't necessarily where it's at. Like when you've got streaming services like Amazon and that, where they can take Jack Reacher and basically do 8 episodes adapting a book, and you're just looking at, wow, that is. They did the same thing for picking on the Jacks, but Jack Ryan as well. Uh, that's probably a better way to do it, where you can just go, we're just gonna do like a season of 8 episodes, and that's the story, and you could really, really push the origin in the first season and just go, right, this is where it starts. This is, this gets him up to speed for his first assignment, basically. But yeah, fingers crossed. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. Who knows? But if it doesn't, there's plenty of stuff out there to read and to watch. And yeah, I as I said, if you're a fan of good action that's a little bit light, it's not too heavy where you're just like getting bogged down in drama and stuff like that. It's great. It's easy to read. It's easy to watch, and just good fun. And as I said, all the like Fred Ward is brilliant in this. I think it was probably the first thing, or no, it wasn't the first thing I ever paid attention to. I think that time traveling movie he did, which was really weird, was pretty good. I can't even remember what it was called. It was like Time Rider. I think it was called Time Rider, where he was like on a dirt bike going through time. Yeah, that was pretty fun. And of course he's in Tremors, which is awesome. Everyone loves Tremors. If you don't love Tremors, watch it and then you'll love Tremors. Um, so yeah, Fred Wood's a great character actor. Wilford Brimley's a great character actor. Jay Preston's a great character actor. Joel Grey was a great character actor. Um, so yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, bring it back, give it a go. But if not, oh well. You gave it a red hot go during the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and early 2000s. So, but yeah, I give it a big thumbs up if that matters to anybody. But I do recommend it if you're into that sort of thing, to check it out. Um, as I said, just be ready for it is a product of its time. So that's my way of just warning people, going, yes, there is casual racism in the books. There's but it goes both ways. Um, there is going to be stuff where people are going, oh, this seems really dated, and it's like, yeah, it is, because it was the 70s, and we're dealing with weird 70s sort of stuff, like especially the book Acid Rock. My God. But yeah, it's but yeah, they're really easy to read. As I said, they're short, punchy. You'll be able to knock one off in a day easily. Movie's fantastic. The comics are good fun. Um, so yeah, it's one of those situations where someone's taken a concept and they've given it many different attempts at different mediums, and I think they did a great job in all of them. It's rare that you can actually get a movie out and you just go, wow, that actually does work for the Destroyer. Like, they modify it a bit here and there, but they sort of update it to the 80s. It's like, some of the 70s stuff is outdated, and you go, all right, well, we're not going to do that. But yeah, so good books, good movie, good comics. It just works, and yeah. So with that, I'm going to sign off and leave you to ponder whether you wish to read these books or read these comics or watch this film. As I said, the cool thing is too with this edition anyway. It had a couple of extra minutes of footage that I don't remember from when I first saw it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And it actually does add to the to the story, and it's like adds a little bit to it, and you go, oh wow, that's, that makes more sense. Yeah, so yes, The Destroyer, 1970s action from Mills and Boon. Still kind of relevant for me anyway today. And yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this, and hopefully you'll give it a go. But as I know, as I've been saying, keep on reading, keep on watching, keep on listening, because there's lots of cool stuff out there. And keep yourself entertained. Have a good one. Bye.
More updates. Damn the man! Save the Empire!